Tonight, on Person in Person, 2 non-beef patties, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions... Wait, what?
Catch me if you can.
I'm not a real doctor, but I am a real worm. I am an actual worm.
Bugs? For pugs?
Special agent. I'm a fucking liar. FBI.
The hills are alive with a sound of techno.
All these stories plus world news, weather, sports, and a movie review. That's tonight
On Person in Person.
Good evening, wherever you are, whoever you are, and welcome to Person in Person. I'm Gene Person.
And I'm Greg Person.
No relation. Person in Person is a news show for people who don't like news shows, by people who don't like news shows. No lofty aspiration to journalistic integrity here. We pick and choose the stories we talk about. It's funnier that way.
Good evening, Gene. Before we dive into the show, there's something I'd like to tell you.
Good evening, Greg. Okay, shoot.
Well, don't know quite how to say it, so I'll just get it out there. This might be my last episode of the show.
And you're telling me this while we're recording the show?
Well, no time like the present, as they say, and it is always the present, so it's technically never a bad time. What happened was I got an email from the government. I've been invited to be an ambassador for the new administration.
The incoming administration.
Indeed.
An ambassador, huh? That's a pretty prestigious post.
It is. I don't know how I got selected for it, but they sent me an email, and maybe you can come visit me if you've got some tropical clothes, because I'm going to be the new ambassador to the Boffides.
Oh, really? I hear it's beautiful there, year-round.
Yeah, it's like the Antilles, the Seychelles, the Boffides, you know. They're all just kind of these wonderful tropical paradises, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Sure. Sweet. Well, I guess I have to say congratulations. I had no idea that you were so well connected.
I guess I've got... Oh, hold on 1 second. Okay, and I'm hearing from our producer, Jerry, that the Boffides is not a real country. It is, in fact, a rude joke that I won't repeat on air.
A rude joke, you say?
Yes, I don't know what Boffides could possibly refer to, but I guess I'm going to keep doing the podcast.
Well, a mixed bag here. I don't know whether I should be elated that you're going to stick around or disappointed that I won't get to leverage those sweet, sweet perks.
Well, you know, we could still sneak our way onto a Sandals resort. We are celebrities, after all.
We are celebrities in the same way that the Boffides is an archipelago.
Indeed. Shall we pop the cork on main news?
Let's do that. It's main news. Our first story tonight, McDonald's unveils a new meatless burger product. Fresh off their win in the 2020 Burger Cup, McDonald's has announced that it will be testing a plant-based burger in key markets. Eventually, an option will exist to replace burgers, even breakfast sandwiches, and chicken. Following in the footsteps of other chains like Burger King and Dunkin', McDonald's has launched this new initiative, co-created with Beyond Meat. The product, or the initiative, is called McPlant.
Ooh.
The article goes on about other things McDonald's is doing to keep customers paying, but I'm not going to get into all of that. Let's just dive right in on the name. McPlant. Now, we know it's a meatless burger product, so it's probably plant-based. But is this really the best McBranding? McNo. Because McPlant also makes you think about the plant that processes the food, which makes it, for better or worse, sound like participating in a chemistry experiment. I mean, I'd recommend calling it McLab if you were going to go for that, except that would also conjure images of potentially people confusing it with being made from dog.
You know, I gotta say, I hate this name. I didn't think that we would come across a name worse than the Yum Nut, but this might be it.
I'm not loving it.
No, indeed. Call it the McTasty, call it the McFun, call it the McGood. Whatever you do, don't make McDonald's customers remember they're eating plants.
Because that's McBullshit.
Although if you think about it, cows are plant-based too.
Listen, I'm all for meatless burgers. I think it's great. It's better for the environment, better for the human in a lot of cases. But even the prospective boxes for the burgers are green and white with a couple of tastefully placed leaves. I feel like they're focusing entirely on the wrong part of it.
The only leaf that anybody at McDonald's wants is that wilted piece of hot lettuce that you get on a burger.
Hot iceberg lettuce, might I add.
Oh, God.
If they want meat eaters to try the burger, they should be selling it on how much like meat it is. It's great to attract the vegetarian and vegan markets, but I feel like that's mostly what they're going to get with this particular campaign. And are those folks really potential McDonald's customers? I just don't think so.
Absolutely not. I mean, this is a complete failure to understand your customer base.
A complete McFailure, Greg.
Of course, McFailure, TM.
No word yet on whether McDonald's will be furnishing Hollywood actors with other meat substitutes.
Ooh, call back to an old episode. Love it.
Yeah. I'll be doing that occasionally from now on.
Well, if nothing else, it proves that we at least listen to the show.
On to story number 2.
So I want to tell you about this cat, David Rush of Boise, Idaho. He's an electrical engineer who's broken over 150 world records with the Guinness people over the last few years. Most recently, he broke a world record catching 18 raw eggs in his mouth without breaking them in 1 minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's YouTube video of this feat, and it's a lot of breaking eggs in your mouth, and it's just not my cup of tea. But it is apparently his cup of tea. He's doing all of this, breaking these world records, to promote STEM education. But about that, I have a few questions. For one, I mean, he's saying he's doing this to promote STEM education, but does it? Does it really? I mean, he's saying that this promotes a growth mindset, but he's an electrical engineer. If he did something cool with robots or lasers, that would show people what you could do with a STEM degree and get people excited about the sciences. As it is, he's basically promoting clown college, which I'm not knocking. I think clown college is incredible. I took just one clowning class at our local community college, and I was shocked at how rigorous it was. So tons of respect and love for clowns. But
I took a clowning class as well. It was also very challenging just getting into the classroom because there were like at least 900 of us trying to fit in there.
Yeah, and you're not a small guy, so you must have been really squeezed.
Yeah, what can I say?
But like if I eat the world's hottest pepper to promote arts education, does that work? Does that relate? Are people going to make that mental connection? I don't think so.
I feel like you're just kind of promoting your own thing at that point.
Which, if he really wants to promote himself, he's got a YouTube page, he's got a website, that's all fine. But what he really needs is an OnlyFans. Because, like us, his audience is going to be geeks and perverts. There's definitely somebody who's going to pay money to watch this guy catch raw eggs or jog and juggle at the same time or, any of the other records that he's broken. I'm telling you, you'll get subscribers. Go for it, David, I mean, just let your freak flag fly.
Just out of curiosity, is there a world record for getting the most world records?
I mean, if there is, he's got it. I would say that's kind of like when you make a list and item 1 on the list is make a list, just so you could check something off.
Wait. So if there is a world record for having the most world records, is there a record for having the most world records the most number of times? Do you see where I'm going with this? When does it stop?
I mean, I guess you could just keep doing this like recursive thing where you get the world record for the world record for world record for world record. But that's cheating. I don't think they'd allow that.
Okay. Well, I'll say this. If I want to raise money for STEM, I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. By stripping.
Well, let's get you an OnlyFans then.
I'm way ahead of you.
Okay. So I'm going to have to do some Googling when we finish the broadcast.
Story number 3. Weird worm snakes invade Virginia. Now, I understand you mistakenly read the headline when I initially sent it to you.
I did. When I read your notes for this episode, I thought it said snake worms in vagina, and my reaction was extreme. I very nearly threw my phone out the window because I didn't want to hear or see or read anymore.
Well, I don't blame you for that. There's a new invasive species in Virginia. They're worms, but they kind of look like snakes. They're orange, black, and white with a hammerhead-shaped head. In fact, they're called hammerhead worms. They're native to Asia, apparently not dangerous to humans or pets, but according to experts, they are essentially immortal. The main concerns with these worms are for soil fertility and other agricultural concerns. They're also apparently in dozens of other states, so let's start with the claim that they are essentially immortal. What that means is you cannot go all Highlander on them, they'll just grow it back, but apparently they can be killed with salt.
Okay, so that seems doable.
So you dip those suckers in some McDonald's fries, you got a former worm.
Oh, and then you're one step closer to having a McPlant.
Right. Anyway, that's what experts recommend for dealing with the pests. Their proliferation is pretty amazing. If the population continues to grow, maybe they're in 50 states soon. Maybe that's when they start becoming harmful to humans and pets. Maybe that's when we get worm zombies, or they enter the kill phase. Ever seen Slither?
I have. Michael Rooker's fantastic in that movie.
They're brightly colored and might be kind of easy to miss despite that because they look like spilled paint.
But they slither around though, right? They're pretty mobile.
I mean, one would presume, given the fact that they are worms.
So you could then literally watch paint dry, and if anything funky happens, you know you've actually been watching worms.
That's correct, Greg.
Huh. All right. Well, that's my Tuesday afternoon filled up. So these worms, do they have any possible value? Can you eat them? Can you grind them up and snort them? Like, what's the deal?
I have no idea, Greg. As you know, I'm limited by the scope of the story itself, but let's assume, since I saw no evidence against it, that these things are worth as much as flying squirrels.
Holy cow. Well, if there's one thing I've learned in my career as a journalist, it's that if you grind up enough of something and snort it, eventually it'll do something for you. So we'll do some experiments on that, and we'll see what happens. We'll do a follow-up story on a future episode.
And I will accompany you on that follow-up story from a secure, undisclosed location.
As usual. Now, speaking of bugs getting into our bodies, Nestle Purina Pet Foods is going to roll out a line using insect protein to be more environmentally sustainable. So that's how your pug's going to be getting his bugs from now on. Now, I do want to clarify, this is not, in my view, a food crime. Eating bugs is perfectly good for you. In fact, it's better for you than whatever it is you usually eat, most likely. It's a lot better for the environment. And if you've seen Snowpiercer, it's what we're all going to be eating in the future anyway, because capitalism has killed the earth.
You know, Bessie isn't going to survive the apocalypse, but cockroaches sure will.
Exactly. And we don't even have to do anything for them to proliferate. So we can just, gather them up and crunch them down, and it'll be perfect. Not to mention, dogs and cats already eat bugs for fun. So I feel like this is going to be, if nothing, like just a big bowl of candy served to them every day.
In addition to dogs and cats, so do bears, actually. Bear Grylls, most notably.
That's true. I've seen him do it, and he enjoys it a little too much. So I think the only thing that might change here is that my dog certainly would be maybe a little bored if he didn't get to hunt his own bugs anymore. But I will say, I think the next thing for this is probably going to be babies, because they'll put anything in their mouths and their food's all mashed up anyway, so they won't know or care.
Oh, well, one quick point here.
Mm-hmm.
As the parent of a baby-led weaning child, I beg to differ on that point. My kid would eat a cockroach, sure, after 6 months once he met the signs of readiness, but he would eat that motherfucker whole.
Okay, so he would prefer the bugs au naturel.
That's correct.
All right, well, that'll be something to keep in mind for the future. And, if you can get him started eating bugs now, when the climate apocalypse has reduced our food options to bugs and algae, he's going to be a lot less picky than most kids.
Again, way ahead of you, Greg.
So what's our next story?
Our next story is Woman Impersonates FBI for Free Chick-fil-A. In Dallas, Georgia, a woman named Kimberly George Ragsdale allegedly attempted to get free food from a Chick-fil-A by convincing workers that she was an FBI agent. Police were called. She continued to claim she was a Fed, even as she was being arrested, but of course, she couldn't give ID because her credentials were, quote, electronic only. Of course, she was arrested, and while she was arrested, she pretended to talk to an invisible radio in her shirt asking for backup. She was charged with impersonating a public officer. Perhaps the funniest bit about all of this is that it wasn't her first time doing it. She has apparently either done this at the same location or others. That wasn't disclosed in the story, but this is her MO. Give me free food or you're under arrest. You cannot make this up. I mean, apparently Kimberly George Ragsdale can, but she can't sell it to the people that matter.
Now, obviously, my favorite part of this story is the shirt microphone.
Oh yeah, because it's hilarious, Greg.
That's, if you're gonna do a bit, you gotta commit. And this lady, at some point when you're in the back of the squad car, you're like, all right, either I throw myself on the mercy of these guys or I commit and really sell it.
So where does she go next with this? I assume there's gonna be a next time. Let's be honest. There's gonna be a next time. So maybe a toy gun? Maybe she increases the old charges? Or brings in another party to play the special agent in charge?
Well, I was going to say, a Chick-fil-A sandwich is like, what, $4? This is not the kind of thing that you should be pulling out the big guns for.
I know. I mean, I vote with my wallet, so I have never actually eaten at Chick-fil-A, and I'd probably pass if I was offered it because I've never developed a palate for homophobia. But it just still doesn't seem to be worth getting arrested over,
No, if you're going to, commit a felony for a free meal, at least go to Red Lobster.
Or, get yourself some 10 pounds of caviar frittata.
Ooh, there you go. See, now that would be an example of food vigilante justice.
Right on.
To our listeners out there, as the top cop of food crime, if you can find a way to steal or con your way to getting this frittata, go for it.
We can't actually advocate people to commit crimes. But,
okay.
So definitely don't commit any crimes. Wink.
Yes, absolutely. In that case, don't commit any crimes. All right, well, continuing my theme of being interested in stuff that happens in European courts and how they classify things, in Germany, electronic dance music, or as it's known in German, Beepenboopen, is now going to be considered music for tax purposes.
That was really good. I just want to interrupt you to say that was very good. Thank you.
I was super proud of Beepenboopen when I came up with it.
You should be.
So the backstory on this is that for tax purposes, event venues are charged at 19%, live musical performances are charged 7%. Previously, EDM was ruled as a performance, but not a live musical performance. So now they've reversed that, and so EDM is considered music for tax purposes only. Previous legal judgments regarding the artistic merit of EDM are still going to be considered controlling precedent.
Okay, so it's not like all of a sudden Minion memes are considered literature.
No. If you want to find out what the actual rule is going to be for the artistic merit of EDM, you want to refer to Germany v. Kraftwerk. That's going to be the big controlling case there. But because approximately 80% of the German economy is techno-based, this is going to be a huge blow to state revenue.
So how much of that economy is polka? I'm just curious.
At this point, probably less than you would think. I think polka has probably migrated to the upper Midwest of the United States. I mean,
fair enough.
When I was up there, it was just wall-to-wall polka. It was just lederhosen and steins and little alpine hats. all through the Great Lakes region for sure. But, if you believe in trickle-down economics, and why wouldn't you?
Sure.
Then this is actually going to be a huge windfall for the German people because that money that's saved by the EDM guys, that's going to trickle down to the pacifier manufacturers and Molly dealers.
If I want to listen to EDM, I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. By stripping.
It's good to have a side hustle.
Or just a hustle.
Oh, is that the main hustle and this is the side hustle?
I mean, you could say that. This is the hobby.
Right. We have not yet graduated to the level of hustle in any way, shape, or form.
I hustle for this, like I hustle to scratch my back sometimes because I have an itch.
Yeah, it really is like that. It's a compulsion that nobody's going to pay us for. But if you want to, email us at
personandpersonshow@gmail.com. On to world news. In Japan, Yutaka Umeda, the mayor of Yamato, Japan, noticed that the Chinese characters used to write his name could, if using an alternate pronunciation, sound like the name Joe Biden. After this discovery, he gained thousands of internet points. Umeda was watching coverage of the U.S. elections when he made the discovery. He reports that he feels closer to the president-elect since their names are phonetically similar.
Now, so if I understand this correctly, if he uses the Chinese alphabet and pronounces it differently, it comes out as a different name.
That's correct, Greg.
That's less of a coincidence to me. That feels like trying a little bit too hard. Because, if you wrote my name out in Cyrillic and pronounced some of the letters differently, my name is Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, okay, but bear in mind that the Japanese language is based on Chinese, and so the characters used to write the name are still very much in the Japanese language.
All right, I'll allow it this time.
But watch yourself, McCoy.
You're a loose cannon, Japan.
So I wonder what the Japanese equivalent of a giant fascist orange pile of shit is, phonetically. At any rate, feeling closer to the president-elect may not be the best thing for him.
No, you definitely don't want to be too close, because that's how you get felt, if you know what I'm saying.
Or at least sniffed.
Yeah.
On to Spain. And my favorite story of this entire show. Spain is getting kind of a name for itself in unique art restoration. A statue in Palencia, Spain, of a smiling woman in a country scene on the facade of a bank was originally unveiled in 1923 and was recently restored by an artist from Palencia, Antonio Guzman Capel. His restoration was pretty far from professional. The smiling woman was replaced with a scowling monstrosity. Not particularly horrific. Oddly endearing, actually. Like something you'd see on the Muppets. Or maybe Nicktoons. Definitely some kind of children's fare. And the photos went viral because, of course. So, the first point is this is obviously being compared to Ecce Homo.
Oh, you mean Monkey Christ?
Yes, the 12th century painting of Christ ruined by an 80-year-old woman that was later renamed Monkey Christ. Incidentally, I have a theory about Monkey Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You know how some people say Jesus H. Christ?
Of course.
The H stands for Harambe.
That would make sense. Harambe did die for our sins.
So some people are calling this most recent debacle Potato Head. And I don't know that that's appropriate. It looks more like a mashed potato head. Like it was molded in mashed potato. She doesn't particularly look like a potato or anything of this earth, really. The change to her eyes is pretty striking. The change to her mouth is too. One of the eyes is in I can only describe it as the cyclopean position.
Mm-hmm.
While the other one just kind of wandered off to her right temple. And then her mouth looks like she's either shushing or gargling and about to spit. Maybe she spits gravy. Then it's like a Thanksgiving thing.
Oh yeah, she's like one of those fountains that spits, well, pretty much whatever fluid you want to put in the fountain.
That's right.
So it seems to me like there's just a ton of unearned confidence among the art restorers in Spain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is a whole process, right? You don't just snap your fingers and this happens. There's got to be some point in the process of this when you're like, this isn't quite going how I want.
It gets even more crazy because when they're confronted by like outrage over this, both this gentleman and the woman who ruined the monkey Christ, they don't understand what everyone is so upset about.
They see it and they're like, what? It's fine. Well, I'm looking at a picture of the old one. Same to me. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in Spain. Maybe there's something in the water. Maybe there's something affecting everyone's eyesight. But it's a lot of fun from the outside, for sure.
Absolutely.
So I guess what I'm wondering is, how do they even get in this situation? Because I've seen Monkey Christ, of course, and I've seen the picture of this statue, which, if we can find a public domain version, we'll stick it in the show notes.
Sure.
But, I mean, even if you're not a sculptor, I'm not a sculptor, but I've seen faces before. I know where stuff goes. You know, the eyes go on either side of the nose. That's just always true. So, I don't know how it even gets to that point.
I don't either. But you know what? That work of art is effectively gone. So, what do we do from here?
Maybe the secret is just to get Spanish art restorers to restore all the art. That way, we just set the aesthetic standard back down to 0, and we rebuild from there.
If Spain can't have the quality in their art, nobody can.
I mean, I gotta tell you, I would be curious to see these knuckleheads let loose in the Louvre and just see what they come up with.
Oh, sure. That sounds like a recipe for some pretty entertaining reality TV right there.
Well, we're millionaires, so we could probably make it happen.
So this is our new weather segment, Literary Weather, where we discuss what we've been reading this last week and how it's affecting us. So, Greg, I've been reading What Unites Us by Dan Rather. It's a wonderful book that talks about commonalities between people from all political stripes. It talks about Dan Rather's personal history as both a child growing up in Texas and a reporter, the things he's seen in his time as a journalist, and it also discusses, some particularly concerning trends in politics over time. I really appreciated his emphasis on the importance of dissent. I appreciated the fact that at its core, what unites us is our humanity, our compassion, and while he does sort of err on the side of reverence for the U.S. Constitution, which, I feel is a document that is meant to be changed, I still think that it's a wonderful read, and I'm glad that I read it.
Excellent. I'll have to give it a look. I do follow Dan Rather on Twitter, and I enjoy his takes because at this point, he's got nothing on the line anymore, so he can say what he thinks, and it's always very edifying.
Yeah, he's good at it, and I will also add that in the chapter of this book on journalism, he does not pull any punches for his former trade.
Good. Someone's got to hold these people to account.
No doubt. Now, who's going to hold us to account?
I mean, Jerry.
God damn it, you had to remind me about Jerry.
I know, you were having a wonderful Jerry-free day, and there I go. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Well, I've been reading a book by David Graeber that I've actually read once before. I'm giving it another look. It's called Debt, The First 5,000 Years. And it's basically that. It's an exploration of the concept of debt. What does it mean? How is it used? How does it change the way society functions? Graeber was an anthropologist with the London School of Economics. He recently passed away. But I've always tremendously admired him as a thinker and a communicator because he has a great knack for explaining really foundational things about our society in ways that you never thought about them before. And it really makes you look at the world differently. It's not the only book of his that I enjoy. His book on bullshit jobs is also great, highly recommended. And Debt is long. It's 380 pages thereabouts. So I don't know that I'd recommend it to absolutely everyone. But if you're curious about the world, if you want to know how we ended up this way and what we do about it, I think this is an important piece of the puzzle and folks should give it a look.
That sounds very interesting, and it sounds like it would offer potentially some really unique and interesting perspective. Perspective is something I think we all sorely need in this current age.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, to sit down and read an actual book full of actual arguments that are developed over a long period of time, it's something that we don't really do as often as we should anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's enough painful earnestness from me.
As you know, every week our investigative team presents a detailed and harrowing story on food crime. This week, Greg Person has the story. Greg?
All right, folks, I'm going to talk to you tonight about raw water, and I'm going to do it as quickly as possible because if I think about it for more than a few minutes, I will literally die of a hate embolism. So these goop-brained Silicon Valley freaks are selling untreated tap water for $16 a jug or more. So some of these raw water vendors, like Living Spring Water in Oregon, they're just scams. They're selling tap water at a markup. But this is the rare case where the fraud is better than the real thing, because untreated water makes upwards of 500,000 people shit their guts out and die every year, most of them children.
Oh, God.
Yeah, if you need to be told, don't drink untreated water. Chlorine keeps the microbes that make you sick out of your body.
I mean, do they want cholera to come back? Because that's how you're going to get cholera to come back.
Absolutely, like at best. I mean, we don't even know what's going to happen if these snake worm things get into the water.
Right. So this raw water, obviously it grows some algae. How do they market that?
It does, in fact. Well, they market that as a selling point. That if you leave this water alone for a week or so, it's going to start to grow algae in it. That's how you know it's pure.
I feel like the ideal market for this product is people who already won't survive the apocalypse because they don't know how to think critically. Maybe the problem takes care of itself.
Yeah, it's basically a dietary choice for anti-vaxxers. Because it's the same kind of people. Because we like to, think that the people that are anti-vax are ignorant yokels. They're not. They're posh, rich people to whom nothing bad has ever happened. So they think that the idea of taking any kind of precaution is just overblown. But you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Maybe something bad should happen to them. Maybe they do need a dose of Giardia before they finally pull their heads out of their asses.
Fair enough. I think this is my favorite food crime report so far. Well done, Greg.
Well, this Peabody Award didn't win itself.
It's not a Peabody Award, Greg. It's a pee in your body award. It's because of the whole pee in your blood thing.
That's true. I also got a write-up in the Journal of the American Medical Association.
Ooh, fascinating. And now for our out-of-frame movie review. The out-of-frame movie review is a review by someone who hasn't seen the movie. This week we're covering Enola Holmes, the Netflix-released story of Sherlock Holmes' younger sister. Greg has not seen the film. Now, Greg, what did you think of the casting?
Well, I thought it was great. Well, I don't know, because on the one hand, yes, I'm glad that Benedict Cumberbatch came back to reprise his role as Sherlock, because he really did nail it on that TV show. I was less excited about the CGI Gene Wilder that they used for Mycroft Holmes.
Sure. That was an interesting choice they made.
Yeah, I mean, we love Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother. That movie's hysterical. But I just felt like it was disrespectful to Gene, The other Gene,
right.
not Eugene, but...
Well, Well, I will always be a fan of jeans in general. I'm wearing jeans right now. Such a dumb joke.
Go to jail, please, for that joke.
So, how do you feel about the casting of the character of Enola?
Well, I understand that sex sells, right? We all know that. But Christina Hendricks is maybe too sexy for this kind of a show. Like a British period piece, she just sticks out like a sore thumb, and that's not the only thing that sticks out, if you know what I'm saying.
This is taking a very interesting turn, this conversation. How did you feel about the plot lines of the film?
Well, it's basically just an episode of Scooby-Doo, isn't it? I mean, so they go back to the ancestral home of the Holmes family, Holmes' home, and there's a mysterious ghost on the loose, and but nobody can find any trace of the ghost. They hear these sounds and things, and then of course the Holmeses, they all team up, and they discover that it's an electric lantern, which is very much in keeping with the Victorian technology of the day. And, but it turns out that it's actually Old Man Carruthers, who lives at the estate next door. He wants to buy Holmes' home and turn it into a second home for his greyhounds.
What's your opinion of the significance of the name Enola?
Well, it's like granola, but it's like electronic granola, which was something that they were very interested in experimenting with in the Victorian age, which was a time of burgeoning scientific miracles. You had the Faraday and Babbage and all those guys. So they were really excited about Enola, but it turned out nobody wanted electrified cereal.
So just to boil this down to its basics, a CGI version of Gene Wilder and Benedict Cumberbatch romp around a Victorian mansion with Christina Hendricks trying to catch a ghost who turns out to be Old Man Carruthers.
Yes, and I think that this is actually one of the points of the casting that I was really excited about, because we had seen John C. Reilly in the other Sherlock Holmes movie with Will Ferrell, but in this one, he brought a lot more menace, and I don't think I've ever seen that from him before, but I'm interested to see more.
Based on your opinion of the film, would you recommend it to our listeners?
Well, again, it's a little racy for my taste. I don't know if I like the idea of Andy Serkis playing a mocap Gene Wilder. That was a little weird. But other than that, I mean, it's a perfectly good mystery story. I say go for it.
All right, there you have it, folks. Enola Holmes is available for streaming on Netflix right now.
What's happening in the wide world of sports these days, Gene?
Our highlighted sport this week is Estonian competitive swinging, also called keeking. For a long time, Estonian culture has embraced swinging. Village swings exist as a tradition in rural areas and are used in festivals. However, in 1993, a man named Otto Kosk observed that it became more challenging to swing over the fulcrum as the arms of the swing grew longer. He designed telescoping swing arms to gradually increase the challenge, and a sport was born. The person able to swing over the fulcrum with the longest swing arms is the winner. The current record is 7.15 meters, set in 2015 by Kaspar Timso. According to the... Oh, go ahead.
So just to clarify for our listeners who are already booking their flights, this is not the keys in the fishbowl kind of swinging.
According to the Estonian Keeking Federation, which is, my hand to God, a real thing. They have a webpage, and while it's not NBA.com or whatever, it doesn't look like a GeoCities page either. It has a real Web 2.0 look. I feel like I went off on a tangent there. I chose this sport because of obvious through lines with past episodes. Number one, it's Estonian, and we seem to cover a lot of Estonian content.
It's going to feel real weird when we start getting Estonian listeners.
Number 2, the last sport that we covered was wife carrying, and swinging seems like a natural extension of that.
So you put the wife in the fishbowl.
All right. It's important to note that there is an American record for this sport as well. Matt Dart of Georgia, the state, I double-checked, set a record of 5.66 meters in 2015, which is paltry by Estonian standards, but it gives us something to work toward. In America, of course, we also had another prominent keeker, Bing Crosby. Of course, he prefers to swing on a star. Greg?
And carry moonbeams home in a jar.
And presumably the fishbowl as well. Our final segment tonight, as every week, is Person to Person in Person, where we share your valuable feedback with our audience. This week I have not one, but an entire assortment of emails, all of which read, "Congratulations, your podcast has been accepted." By Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, TuneIn, Audible, and more. We've also added a YouTube channel. It sometimes takes a little time for the podcast to show up and be searchable on the podcatchers, but please keep looking for us and like, subscribe, review, anything you can do to help get the word out. We really appreciate you. Did you have a letter this week, Greg?
I don't have a letter per se, but I just wanted to give a shout out to one of our listeners. We don't know who they are, but we do know that we have one listener right now in Michigan. And I just want to say, buddy, whoever you are, we appreciate you. We love you. And, in years to come, when we've become absolute fame monsters and have lost touch with our roots, you're going to have to be the one that comes out here to pull us back from the brink and remind us where we started.
So if we do send you our address, be sure to take Michigander.
That's pretty good. I'll allow it.
It's not good. It's terrible. I'm probably going to cut that.
No, I think you should leave it in. I actually did find it fairly funny.
Just keep your mittens off my stuff. Unless you want to get a good lancing.
No, it's gone too far. You've got to pull back. You've got to rein it in.
I can't stop. I'm out of control.
Remember your orange slices. Yep. But hey, listen, that's the first one this episode, so that's
okay.
That's progress.
I'm calming down.
Just take it one day at a time.
Folks, that's all the show we have for you tonight. We invite you to participate in Person to Person in Person, and there's so many ways for you to get yourself heard. Send us an email, personinpersonshow@gmail.com. Drop us a voicemail, 541-249-5933. Find us at Twitter, @AnchorPersons, and on Facebook, @PersonInPersonShow.
Yes. We also now have a Patreon page, patreon.com/personinperson, where you can find out how to become a member of the Food Justice Squad and get access to some special content.
Be sure to like us, rate us, review us, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher when the show becomes available. Until next time, this is Gene Person saying, you should always end a comedy set with a callback.
And this is Greg Person saying, salt those worms. Good night.
The Bofides? The Bofides. The Bofides. The Bofides. I don't get it.